911, where's your emergency?
Okay, my emergency is that, oh my gosh, we looked in the house and there's a break-in. It smells like somebody's dead in the house.
As the urgent 911 call directed detectives to the residence of 68-year-old Lisa Ann Stuckey, they were completely unaware of what they were stepping into. The decomposed body they found was only the beginning, a chilling doorway into a case that was more tangled than they could have imagined.
And I didn't find out for a week.
If you actually investigated her, you'd probably be pretty shocked at what you find.
You know, I'd hurt somebody without leaving marks.
Pretty much. I do a lot of things to people, but like I said, why would I be out there and do something stupid like
To kill her?
With one suspect after another, and all with their own sinister intentions, it was like a maze. But as they closed in, detectives made a discovery so twisted that it forced them to rethink everything they had ever believed.
He told me that he murdered his neighbor yesterday. I never saw this coming.
I will admit to you 100% that you had me fooled the first time you came in here.
On July 2nd, 2017, Doran Spears decided to check on her friend, 68-year-old Lisa Ann Stuckey, after not hearing from her for almost 2 weeks. Little did she know that this visit would be burned into her memory in the most horrific way. The moment Doran arrived at Lisa's house, something felt off. The door leading from the garage to the house was unlocked, something that was completely out of character for Lisa. This was strange because Lisa lived alone and always kept everything locked for safety. As Doran stepped inside, a foul smell hit her, stopping her from going any further. Terrified of what might lie behind the closed walls, she immediately called 911.
911, where's your emergency?
Okay, my emergency is that, oh my gosh, we looked in the house and there's a break-in. It smells like somebody's dead in the house.
Within minutes, lead detective Corey Payne arrived at 2390 Ross Avenue in Ammon, Idaho. However, he had no way of knowing that the discovery he was about to make would be so gruesome. It would haunt him for the rest of his life.
As soon as I walked in, it was clear that the back door that led to the backyard had been kicked in. And that was the first sign that really something was wrong here. The closer you got to the back master bedroom, the smell got worse. It was a putrid type smell, probably the worst thing I've ever smelled in my life.
In the master bedroom, Detective Payne made a grim discovery, a body so badly decomposed that it was hard to tell if it was a man or woman. However, since Lisa lived alone in that house, she was presumed to be the victim. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Payne quickly called for backup and began carefully examining the scene. From the crime scene, the detectives were left baffled, unsure whether Lisa had suffered a tragic accident, a medical emergency, or if something far more menacing was at play. The body was found lying on a pile of clothes with a blue shirt covering the head. When detectives removed the blood-soaked shirt and took a closer look, they discovered a severe fracture at the back of the victim's skull. This indicated that she had died from blunt force trauma, ruling out the possibility of an unattended death and confirming that foul play was involved. Looking around the house, it became obvious that Lisa had a passion for collecting things. This led detectives to an initial theory: a robbery might have taken place and gone wrong. However, until they had more evidence, they couldn't be sure of anything. Unfortunately, the crime scene yielded very little evidence.
Just outside the master bedroom, I noticed a ball-peen hammer. Knowing that she had sustained blunt force trauma to the back of her head, that hammer was the first thing that we looked at as a potential weapon in this homicide. There were quite a few fingerprints that were taken from the scene. We tried to grab any that we could find that might lead us to who the suspect was. There's also a phone that was found under a pillow on the master bed. We took that phone to look at it for evidence.
But beyond that, there wasn't much to go on at this stage. However, they were on the verge of experiencing a bizarre encounter that would change everything. Just as the investigators were processing the crime scene, a mysterious man approached the house.
He was dressed a little differently, had some headphones on, and this male walked by and said to one of our deputies, "What happened? Somebody get murdered here?" And they thought that was very odd.
Mario tells detectives that he had just moved to Idaho Falls from New Jersey about 6 months ago. He tells them that he worked at a nearby fast food restaurant and he would cut through Lisa Ann's property to get to and from work. He said that he was living 4 doors down from Lisa's home with his 19-year-old girlfriend and her family.
As detectives continued to question Mario, he dropped an alarming detail. He wasn't just a random neighbor. Lisa actually had a deeper connection to the family he was living with, the Liveleys. After her husband Frederick passed away in 2004, Lisa relocated from the Bay Area in California to the suburbs of Ammon, Idaho. In those early days, she felt incredibly lonely until she met the Liveleys. This family, made up of married couple Alan and Wendy, and their 2 kids, Jamian and Adana, quickly became a vital part of her life. Despite the significant age difference, Wendy and Lisa formed a close bond within just a few days. Lisa appreciated the Lively family's support, and they took it upon themselves to look out for her during her transition to a new life.
They were just socializing a lot, and Lisa started considering Wendy her best friend.
They go to garage sales together on the weekends. They spend time together. Wendy and Alan's son, Jamian, starts mowing her lawn for her. They really welcome her, and she becomes part of the family.
I feel that the Liveleys were looking out for Lisa, and the fact that she was a widow, they just felt like they needed to bring her under their wing and keep her safe.
As Adana's live-in boyfriend, Mario was expected to have good intentions toward Lisa. However, when detectives looked into his background, they uncovered some alarming information. Mario had a history of violent crimes, including break-ins, robbery, and aggravated assault. This raised red flags for the detectives, as it's not uncommon for perpetrators to return to the scene of their crimes. Sometimes out of curiosity, other times to relive their heinous acts. Because of this, the detectives began to worry that Mario might be doing just that. Suddenly, the robbery theory resurfaced. Investigators speculated that Mario's close relationship with Lisa could have given him insight into her wealth and valuables. This led them to consider the possibility that Mario had planned to rob her, and when Lisa unexpectedly caught him in the act, things escalated and took a violent turn. With mounting suspicion, the detectives decided to bring Mario into the Ammon police station for questioning. It was time for him to explain himself.
Mario, how come you said it looks like somebody got murdered?
I didn't say that.
No, you said, hey, what happened? Did somebody get murdered?
Okay, yeah, I brought that up because, hey, you don't see this every single time where it's all forensic stuff and stuff like that. I put 2 and 2 together. I'm not stupid.
But to walk by and say that, you threw so much suspicion right on yourself. You know
That's
that?
fine. That's totally fine. I don't know.
You have the mystery.
I've straightened out my life big time. You know, I went to a hard to love public school, gangs and everything like that. I thought that was the cool thing to do.
Were you involved in gangs?
Yeah, I was.
Detectives needed to determine whether Mario was genuinely an intelligent man who happened to be at the scene and casually asked a probing question, or if he was a cunning killer trying to play it smart. Given his troubled history, believing in his innocence was a hard sell. However, the next piece of information Mario shared took them completely by surprise and set off alarm in their minds. He revealed that the trouble had begun just a few days before, when Wendy accused him of stealing.
Well, Wendy misplaced a couple $100. Okay. But I said, why would I bite the hand that feeds me? I don't like getting screamed and yelled at every single night. That they were threatening they were going to put my stuff out and make me homeless. I didn't know where to go with no money.
So did you threaten Wendy and her family over this fight?
Yes, I did threaten them. And I said, hey, man, you guys are going to do this to me. Man, I'm going to come back and just everything up. Shoot everything up.
And?
Kill.
Despite Mario's attempts to clarify that he didn't mean what he said to the Lively family, investigators found it difficult to take his claims at face value. They considered the possibility that financial issues might have motivated a robbery, but they also wondered if Mario, feeling wronged by the Liveleys, sought revenge on Lisa instead, as she was a vulnerable target. However, without any solid evidence against him, they had no choice but to let him go. Nonetheless, he remained the prime suspect, and detectives made it a priority to keep a watchful eye on him as the investigation unfolded. To solve the mystery of Lisa's murder, It was essential to understand the last moments of her life. Unfortunately, the severe decomposition made it impossible for forensic experts to pinpoint the exact time of her death. So, detectives decided to take a different route and began analyzing her phone.
A review of her phone calls indicated she had completed phone calls late on June 15th, but from June 16th on, there were no more outgoing calls. Just phone calls and contacts coming in from concerned friends. And so we'd had an operating theory that the crime had occurred either late June 15th or the early morning hours of June 16th.
With this crucial piece of the timeline in place, the detectives hit the pavement, canvassing the neighborhood for potential eyewitnesses. Unfortunately, since the body was discovered over the 4th of July weekend, most of Lisa's neighbors were either on vacation or out of town. Luckily for them, Doran Spears, one of Lisa's closest friends and the one who made the 911 call, was still around. Hoping she could provide some insight into the less familiar aspects of Lisa's life, detectives brought her in for questioning.
I mean, I knew Lisa had a lot of money.
Was she ever worried about somebody coming in and stealing her?
Always, but she wouldn't do anything.
Where did Lisa keep her valuables in the house?
In the closet and almost everywhere.
Okay.
On top of the counter, on the kitchen.
Her most precious stuff?
Yeah, she wore it all the time. She would have, I bet she had $20,000 worth of diamonds and stuff on the kitchen counter.
During their initial conversation, Doran confirmed what detectives had already suspected. Lisa had a lot of valuables in her home, but they were utterly unprepared for the bombshell she was about to drop. Doran revealed that over the years, Lisa had grown close to the Lively family, especially to Dwayne Heimer, Alan's stepfather, who had moved into the Lively household. Their friendship quickly developed into something deeper, and before long, they were dating. It seemed like a sweet new beginning for the older couple when Lisa moved in with Dwayne at his old house. But not everyone was thrilled about this blossoming romance. Alan and Wendy were far from happy, and their disapproval led to a massive rift between the Livelies and Lisa. Tensions escalated to the point where the Lively family had cut all ties with Lisa.
When Lisa started dating Dwayne, Wendy got all upset and she said she was using him, that she was a gold digger and all this stuff. And so they got into it really big.
The details Doran shared were nothing short of astonishing. The possibility of a malicious plot was starting to take shape in the detectives' minds and led them to wonder what impact this fallout might have had on Lisa's fate. Just as they were gearing up to follow up with the Livelies, to dig deeper into this tangled web of relationships, they received a mind-boggling tip that would change everything. It involved the same family and sent the detectives racing down a new, unexpected path. The tipster turned out to be a local tow truck driver who had an intriguing lead. He approached one of the deputies at the Ammon Police Department, claiming he might have critical information related to the case. So, without wasting any time, Detective Payne went to meet him.
You said you had some information in regards to what happened in Ammon? Okay, so just start from the beginning.
Yesterday, they were living in their one, and I heard he did it. Down from there.
Who said this?
Wendy fired me.
Wendy was on the phone?
Yeah.
Okay, and she said the words?
The tow truck driver revealed that he had overheard a conversation just a few days before Lisa's murder, but at the time he hadn't thought much of it. It wasn't until he saw the news coverage of the crime that he realized the importance of what he had heard. Interestingly, his presence there that day was purely coincidental, but if his words were to be believed, Wendy's comments were anything but coincidental. They likely represented a hidden confession of a sadistic scheme. Suddenly, the stakes of this investigation were higher than ever.
Detectives begin to think, who could Wendy possibly have been talking about the he on that phone call?
The he's we knew about at that point were Mario, her daughter, Adonna's boyfriend, and Alan, her husband.
Having already spoken to Mario, it was now time for Wendy and Alan to enter the interrogation room, as detectives continued their pursuit of justice. The investigators chose to withhold the tip they received, eager to see what Alan and Wendy would reveal on their own.
I don't know what happened in that house. I haven't had anything to do with her in 2 years. I haven't talked to her, called her. You know, I haven't set foot on her property. I know my kids cut through her driveway to walk down the road and stuff. A lot of people do. So like I said,
you got a full house because it's you and Alan.
It's me and Alan, Adana and Mario, and sometimes Jamie.
Jamie?
He goes by Jay.
Oh,
no.
is he the youngest?
No. Adana's the youngest.
Oh, Adana.
Yeah.
As the conversation shifted to the Lively family's history, detectives were taken aback by a surprising detail Wendy shared. Jamie and Adana's biological mother had them at a very young age and was unable to care for them. Wendy and Alan stepped in to provide the love and stable environment the children desperately needed, helping them heal from severe physical and mental trauma. The detectives found it challenging to reconcile this side of Wendy and Alan with the dark cloud of suspicion that now surrounded them. These were the people who had opened their hearts and homes to those in need. How could they be involved in something as horrific as murder? Wendy also mentioned that they had extended their compassion to Dwayne, who was battling cancer at the time.
So Dwayne, as he progressively got worse, we moved him in with us, and we started doing physical therapy and all that stuff at our house. We got him to the point where he was doing better.
Wendy went on to explain that their relationship with Dwayne had started to deteriorate once Lisa started interfering in their household and their home. From then on, Wendy began to view her friend through a much darker lens. Wendy had made her dislike for Lisa crystal clear, going so far as to not speak to her for nearly 2 years. However, detectives were still unsure if this constituted a strong motive for murder, especially since Lisa had been living alone for months, following Dwayne's death from cancer in April 2016. However, as they waited a bit longer, the pieces began to fall together. As Wendy was being interrogated, her husband Alan sat in a separate room undergoing questioning of his own. Just when the detectives thought they might not get much from him, he dropped a startling detail that revealed the real reason behind the resentment.
We moved him back in his house, and then
And he passed in March of the following year?
April,
okay.
I mean, that's I know because no one told me. Dwayne had changed his will right at the end of his life. No one told me. And I didn't find out for a week.
Alan shared that they thought they were the beneficiaries of Dwayne's inheritance, but they didn't get anything when he passed away. They firmly believed that Lisa had something to do with this, and she was the one who benefited from his death. His words shone a harsh light on the victim herself, hinting at questionable choices, but they still did little to unravel the mystery surrounding her fate.
So he had only met her in like June. And they were already talking will and all this. And I was like, who do you meet? Just me.
Right.
And within a month, you're talking will and all this. Mm-hmm. Well, I watched Lisa operate with older people. She befriends them at the end of their life. Creates a rift between them and their friends, or them and their family. And then next thing you know, she's working her way in. So, I mean, I saw her do it a number of times. So I warned him about her.
If Alan and Wendy were indeed involved in Lisa's murder, their potential motives were becoming clearer. Money is often a driving factor in such crimes, and when revenge is mixed in, it can become even more dangerous. Despite both Wendy and Alan insisting they had no connection to Lisa Ann Stuckey's death, investigators remained skeptical. However, these theories raised more questions than they answered. Detectives still lacked any solid evidence or confessions to connect anyone to the crime, and with each passing day, they found themselves hitting one dead end after another. The fingerprints collected from Lisa's home didn't match anyone in the database. Additionally, the ball-peen hammer discovered at the scene wasn't the murder weapon. The forensic pathologist noted that the indentations on Lisa's skull were larger than the hammer's size. As the initial theories and evidence didn't lead detectives in the right direction, they realized they needed someone who could offer a deeper insight into the dynamics of the Lively household. With that in mind, detectives decided to sit down with Alan and Wendy's son, Jamian.
How old were you when you were adopted by the Lively's?
I believe I was 7 turning 8.
7 going 8. Yeah, we're trying to talk to anybody and everyone we can, trying to figure out stuff about Lisa, your neighbor. So
all I know is that he got with my grandpa, and then he moved out.
Okay.
Jamian came across as a sweet and kind boy, eager to assist the investigators in any way possible. However, when he began to share details about his home life, detectives were not prepared for the startling revelation that followed. According to him, his parents were in the midst of a divorce and their constant fighting had created a tense atmosphere. They were sleeping in separate rooms and were increasingly worried about their financial situation. These unforeseen details raised even more red flags for the detectives. When investigators questioned Jamian about his sister's boyfriend Mario, he recounted the same story that Mario had shared with them previously.
I don't really like Mario, you know? There was this one time where, this was like maybe 2 weeks ago, right? So my mom misplaced some money, right? And Adonna asked him, not accused. She said, hey, did you take this? And he's just freaked out, like, why are you accusing me? I didn't touch it. I didn't take anything, you know?
Like really defensive.
Yeah, and so Adonna's like, you know, I don't feel like you're telling the truth. I want you to leave. I want you to leave the house because they were already having problems. And he was like, you're dead, you don't know who and like all that, you know, and like.
To your sister?
Yeah, he's like, your family, you don't know who, like, that's what he was saying.
With this new information, detectives developed a fresh theory linking Mario to the Lively family. While Alan and Wendy had their grievances with Lisa, they didn't strike the detectives as the type capable of committing such a gruesome act. On the other hand, Mario had a criminal background and was connected to gangs in another state, making him a more likely candidate for violent crime. To address these unresolved questions, detectives brought Mario Iglesias in for interrogation once more.
What else did the Lively's tell you about that lady? Because they don't like that lady at all. So what did they tell you? Be honest.
Well, she's like, because I guess she's from California, something like that. She's like, had a real snotty attitude with people.
They ever talk about Alan's father at all?
He mentioned that she turned him back into an alcoholic. He basically went back to his old ways. He said this woman ran him to the ground.
The Lively's, you've been there just a couple months.
Yeah.
They've treated you like a son, I'm assuming, right?
Pretty much. I feel good about myself.
Yeah.
Would you hurt somebody for the Lively's?
No, nobody. I wouldn't do that.
But they're your family.
Well, I consider them my family now, but I wouldn't do nothing like this for anybody.
According to Mario, the recent strain in the Lively's marriage was weighing heavily on the entire family, but Alan was absolutely shattered.
He doesn't talk to people. Me and him have been bonding a lot. I see a lot of anger. I mean, like he's losing everything. He's losing everything that he had worked hard for now.
Do they fight about money?
Yeah.
As the detectives probed for more information, they decided to adopt a more direct approach with him this time.
How pissed off is Alan at this lady?
Like, not at him.
Pissed off like you were, threatening to kill the family? Is he that pissed off?
No, well, he was just saying, like, he doesn't talk to people.
Despite the detectives pushing him to his limits, Mario remained adamant that he had no involvement in Lisa's murder. He insisted that he had turned his life around and would never commit a crime for anyone else. With their options dwindling, the detectives decided to play their last card. They secured a search warrant for the Lively property, convinced they were on the brink of cracking the case. However, they had no idea how far from the truth they still were. During the search of the Lively home, the detectives meticulously collected potential evidence to compare against the clues gathered from the crime scene, including the shoe print found on Lisa's back door. Every pair of shoes in the Lively residence was confiscated, but unfortunately none matched the print. After this setback, detectives found themselves back at square one. They had suspects but needed more concrete evidence to move forward. Just when it seemed like they were fumbling in the dark, an unexpected ray of hope appeared on the horizon. However, the shocking revelations they were about to uncover would turn the entire case on its head, exposing dark truths they had never anticipated. On July 15, 2017, Nearly 2 weeks after the discovery of Lisa Ann Stuckey's severely decomposed body, detectives received a surprising tip.
The caller was Lauren Pedersen. She told us that she knew who the male was that killed Lisa Stuckey, and that if she ever said anything, that he would kill her too.
But the murderer turned out to be someone the detectives hadn't suspected at all, someone they would have never imagined. It was Alan and Wendy's 20-year-old son, Jamian Hernandez.
All I know is that he got with my grandpa, and then he moved out.
Lauren Pedersen was Jamian's friend, somebody he confided his darkest secret in.
Nobody knows you're here. Okay? You're brave and you're doing the right thing. Okay?
He told me if he was found out that he would go on a rampage. And he's like, I'm gonna tell you this, and you can't say anything. He told me that he murdered his neighbor yesterday, and I didn't know what to say. I was like, why would you do that? He told me he did it because apparently she screwed his family over, put his family in debt. And I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. Like, what do you say to that? He told me that since I now knew that if I were to breathe a word about it, he would take out someone I cared about. He was like, honestly, if I'm going down, I might just take out more people with me. And I believed it. I believe it.
Detectives could see that Lauren was visibly shaken, struggling to process the reality of what she had witnessed from someone she had known for years as a kind and caring friend.
He was like a good person. I never saw this coming from him.
He does seem like a very nice kid. But here's the thing I can tell you, is that we never know people exactly for who they are, okay?
Going beyond her fear and despair, Lauren brought forth the crucial clue that could solve the puzzle of Lisa's murder. However, her words alone weren't sufficient to put Jamian in shackles. Detectives still lacked concrete evidence against him. To outsmart Jamian, the detectives devised a plan to turn the tables and coax a confession from him using his own words. On the night of July 18, 2017, detectives asked Lauren to place a call to Jamian, allowing them to listen in on the conversation.
Hello?
Hey, Jen.
What up?
You brought up something the other day, and it kind of worried me because I'm seeing things everywhere.
Okay, so...
Like, I'm seeing
that's
stuff.
the question then.
I'm seeing stuff all over Facebook. I'm seeing stuff like... I'm hearing stuff on the radio, Jay. Do you have like a second? Could you go...
It doesn't even matter.
Could you just for a second...
Stop talking about it. Stop thinking about it. Let it go. Drop it.
Unfortunately, the attempt proved fruitless. Jamian responded with cryptic answers, never once mentioning Lisa, let alone confessing to anything. Detectives now faced a more pressing concern. They feared their strategy might have backfired and alerted him. Realizing time was running out, they knew they had to act quickly. The following morning, July 19th, detectives decided to bring Jamian in for questioning. However, he was one step ahead. Before they could reach the lively house, Alan, Wendy, and Jamian were spotted leaving in a car. But soon the curtain on this horrific crime was set to fall. Later that day, a patrol deputy pulled over their vehicle. During the unexpected stop, a search of the car revealed incriminating evidence.
We found that Jamian had next to him in the back seat a backpack that was full of things that you would need if you were leaving town quickly. A go bag, if you will, and a small personal safe that contained jewelry that belonged to Lisa Stuckey.
All three individuals were apprehended and brought to the police station. There, detectives pressed Jamian one final time for a confession.
I will admit to you 100% that you had me fooled the first time you came in here.
I didn't do anything. That's not gonna cut it, Dave.
Take a good long look at that. Take a look at it.
Take a look at that.
Yeah,
Take a look at that. You know what that smelled like? Do you have any idea what that was like?
I didn't
Huh?
do it. I didn't do that.
Look at it. Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Look at it.
After hours of intense interrogation, Jamian finally broke down.
I'm sorry, okay?
You need to let it out, man. This has been living in your head. This is hard.
You don't even know what's in my head. It was gonna be fine if she didn't step in. Mom and Dad would be fine and never let me.
Jamian confessed that hatred had been building inside him for a long time. For nearly a year he had been contemplating it, and one fateful day he could no longer resist his inner demons. In the early morning hours of June 16, 2017, Jamian crept up to the side of Lisa's house, a baseball bat in hand. He kicked open the back door, creating a loud noise that jolted Lisa awake from her sleep. As she got out of bed and turned around, Jamian struck her with the bat and she collapsed to the ground. He couldn't believe how easy it had been. Satisfied, he began rummaging through the house, searching for Lisa's jewelry to steal and sell it later. But the terror didn't end there. Lisa was still alive. Jamian heard her moaning in pain as she tried to get up, and what he did next sent chills down the spines of the detectives listening to his confession. He picked up the bat once more and mercilessly kept striking her until she lay motionless, this time truly dead. There was no chance she could have survived such horror. After savagely beating Lisa to death and stealing her jewelry, Jamian fled the house. He then had a bonfire to dispose of all the evidence of his heinous crime, burning his shoes, gloves, and the clothes he wore that night. Finally, he dumped the baseball bat in a pond 25 miles away, hoping to erase any trace of his involvement. When detectives relayed the news of Jamian's confession, both Alan and Wendy broke down in tears. Despite their emotional turmoil, they insisted that they had no knowledge of his plan. As for the tow truck driver's tip about Wendy's suspicious phone call, detectives were unable to verify the specifics of the accusation. With Jamian's confession, Mario Iglesias was also cleared of any wrongdoing. Ultimately, Jamian was the only one held responsible for this crime.
Me? I'm sorry.
In April 2018, Jamian Hernandez pleaded guilty to the first-degree murder of Lisa Ann Stuckey. As part of a plea deal, the death penalty was removed from consideration. The defense highlighted Jamian's troubled childhood, marked by abuse and neglect, and requested a reduced sentence. While the judge acknowledged these factors, he added, "There is nothing the court can do to restore what you have taken, and that is a life." Ultimately, Jamian was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. According to prison records, he is currently incarcerated at the Idaho State Correctional Center in Kuna, Ada County, and will be eligible for parole in 2042. As we reach the final chapter of this story, one can't help but wonder if it weren't for the courage of a brave witness, a murderer might have evaded justice.
Turning him in, knowing that I would probably never see him again, it was the hardest choice I think I ever had to make. Like, it hurt worse than any breakup I ever experienced. It hurt worse than anything bad I ever really had happen to me. This was the worst thing.
Jamian viewed Lisa as the horrible person who was responsible for tearing his parents apart, the only people who loved him and provided him with a safe haven. In his mind, she was the reason his parents didn't receive the inheritance from Dwayne that they felt entitled to. Little did he know that Lisa never received a dime from Dwayne's estate. It all went to Dwayne's biological son, Richard, who lives in Texas. The only thing Lisa retained after Dwayne's death was a bed they had purchased together during happier times. In the end, the hatred, the revenge, and the murder were all for nothing. Jamian's actions robbed Lisa of her life and stole her from the loved ones who remembered her as a sweet, kind, and wonderful person.
Oh my gosh. I miss her so much. this day, I still call her phone. And then after I call it, I realize that she's not there. She's never going to answer the phone again. I just want her back. I just want her back.
Before we conclude, we extend our heartfelt condolences to Lisa's family and their loved ones. What are your thoughts on this twisted tale? Do you believe Jamian was solely responsible for Lisa's murder, or do you think Alan and Wendy may have played a part? Share your opinions in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any cases you'd like us to cover, feel free to leave your suggestions. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Mysterious 7 for more captivating true stories like this one. If you enjoy our content, consider becoming a member to unlock early access to exclusive content.